Oh, hello. Good morning. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Michelle, and I have with me today a very special friend, guest, coach, mentor, and lifelong soul buddy, Miss Joy Kingsborough. And we're going to have a conversation today about expanding consciousness and growing beyond the limitations so we can live extraordinary lives. Because what are we here for if it's not to live an extraordinary life? So, Joy, thank you for being here. I do want to just mention really quickly your work in the world is, I mean, for me, it's been just heart and soul touching. I love who you are. Community consciousness and well-being into the world is fantastic, and I just am so excited for people to know more about you. So I'm just going to give you a chance to say hello, and then we can dive into some juicy conversation.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for being my friend, client, colleague, all the things. I'm really honored to be here and to have this conversation today. And I'm honored to connect in with everybody here who's joining us live. It's good to see you.
Absolutely. So I'm going to make sure I can see comments. That would probably be really helpful. So as people join in, say hello. And if you are watching this replay or catching this at another time, date, or whenever you watch it, let us know by saying replay. And feel free to always dive into the conversation with any questions you have. We'll both be free to answer those at another time if you're not here with us currently. And I'd love to just begin. I mean, okay, we're going to talk about expanding consciousness beyond our limitations.
Yes. What does that mean?
What the heck is that? Let's start with expanding consciousness, and then we can dive into all the ways that the limitations can show up in our life and kind of talk about at least our journey together and the growth that I can speak to and why it matters, why it's so important. Hi, Helen. Thanks for joining us. Helen's with us.
Hi,
So,
Helen.
expanding consciousness.
Yeah. What does it even mean? I always feel like that's like everybody says it.
Right. What is the key word? What's awareness? What's expanding consciousness? I love talking about this because awareness I became familiar with as my journey progressed in personal growth or spiritual journey. But consciousness, it took on a whole new meaning once I got beyond what's happening in my subconscious thoughts, what's happening in my unconscious behaviors, which can be an entire conversation on its own, which we'll touch upon. But what truly happens when we expand the awareness to expand the consciousness? And I'm going to let you take it first, and then I'm going to join in with what I've experienced, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, well, it's, listening to you talk about that can go a lot of different directions. There's a lot of things that happen. There's a lot of things that happen biologically. There's a lot of things that happen, like with your physical environment. There's a lot of things that happen mentally and emotionally. Most of what's occurring as we go into awareness, we become aware of what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what we're doing. It invites in a greater sense of ourselves, right? So there's this ability to witness what's happening in the body and to witness who's the thinker of the thoughts in the body and what's actually happening here. And can I interrupt those things? And we can. So we learn we can interrupt by becoming aware, right? And so that awareness creates this potential for interruption, which is the potential for forgiveness, freedom, right? That then moves us to a state of something new. It's the only way we can choose to move beyond it. Without the awareness that then is followed by that acceptance, we can't shift consciousness because we are stuck in the old consciousness of problem solving. So when we find ourselves in, I got to fix it, we're not actually aware. We're just troubled. We're bothered, right? And it's really a distinct piece.
I want to talk about the fix it piece. And this from a place of like, there's nothing wrong with you. If this starts to resonate, you're not broken. I want to just preface that because in the state before I became aware of what my thoughts and my feelings and all the things were happening on my journey, there was this tendency to beat myself up for everything. It was a perfection pattern that was running, and this need to fix everything for everybody, this need to make it better so you don't fall like I had to fall, so you don't hurt like I had to hurt. And it came from a very loving space, but it also came from, I've got this and you don't, kind
Mm.
of energy. And I wasn't even aware that it was running. And again, it's not that it's bad that something like that has happened or that it becomes in your awareness, but it shifts everything when you stop looking at everything outside of you to have to change, and you can actually go within and go, oh, well, that doesn't feel great, but there could be something here. And
Yeah.
that, like, it opens the trajectory to go, oh my gosh, where else am I fixing
Mhm.
everybody else or being there for everybody else, but I'm not speaking up, or I'm not having an opinion, or I'm not showing up in a way that I want to. And this isn't an easy unraveling. This can take,
Mm-mm.
it doesn't have to be hard either, but it can take a while, and it can be a lifelong journey in our patterns. But I want to come back to the fixing energy and the patterns that we run and why we even run patterns as humans. And I know that you and I, let's just open it up and say, we're going to talk about the brain, we're going to talk about the body, because we both love the science. And we're also going to talk about the metaphysics in it, because we
Right.
both do that too. So why not? That piece of acceptance began to change and shift everything in who I am and how I choose to
Yeah.
show up.
Well, there's a lot in what you just said, right? There's a lot to unpack because everything is a pattern. That's why we love it, because once you understand the pattern, one of the things that really clicked for me in school was understanding that when I was studying the brain is designed primarily for pattern recognition. That's not just for survival. There's been an assumption that pattern recognition is about survival. It's so much more than that. Pattern recognition is such a powerful concept in the mind because pattern recognition helps us to thrive and build and create, because we can see the patterns and then we can create patterns, not
Yes.
fix them. We don't need to fix the patterns. We just learn to create them, and we can use them to our advantage. And that's really powerful. And we've talked several times about the pattern of kind of what you were talking about when you were talking about showing up and bringing yourself to something, like, why am I not interjecting? Why am I not saying something here? Why am I not speaking up for myself? Because we don't understand the pattern of personal development and growth. We don't understand that we have to reach a place of assertion where we're actually bringing ourselves to the world, that is key to creating patterns. That's key to creating your life. And so when you understand that pattern and you have awareness, so many people get stuck in awareness. They're like, oh, I have awareness, right? And they're aware of it. And then they just judge themselves for everything. Like you just said, you went through the thoughts of, why am I not speaking up? It turns into this, why didn't I? What's wrong with me? What's going on? And it's only an invitation to create a pattern where you do.
Okay. Right. That right there.
Yeah.
That the
Yes.
invitation that nothing's wrong,
Right.
that it's all actually as it needs to be. And are you going
Mhm.
to listen and open? We also, I had a mentor who's like, are you going to open the package that's dropping in front of you? What happens when you open it versus kick it aside or trip over it? How many lessons and times does the pattern have to be repeated before you open the package and go, oh,
Right.
there was something in there for me? It's gonna, like, reveal this solution, this answer
Yeah.
I've been seeking, and I'm tripping every time. How many times have I, like, stumbled and did a somersault in front of it before I went, "Oh."
Right. But we're so busy believing that we need to fix all of these things. And it's sort of like if we could come to the place where changing our story and changing the conversation we're having with life and changing our experiences, if that was as easy as wearing a new outfit,
Right.
right? People talk about the simplicity of we'll just do the same thing all the time. That's not life. That's not evolution. We love to express ourselves through clothing, through beauty, through fashion, through toys, the things that we're doing. There's all these ways that we want to express ourselves. And I was thinking back to, there was a period of time where I really loved wearing plaid. Like, I loved it. I wore, it was like outdoorsy and I loved doing that. And there was like a thing I also went through, in my 20s, I had a cowboy phase where I had cowboy boots and I had the Wrangler jeans all the time. Like, there are phases of our growth and our expression, and our thinking patterns are the same. They're no different than an outfit we're connected to, or a way of being. and we just change it. It is that easy. It's just get a new wardrobe, just get a new grouping of thoughts.
Yes.
If we could embrace it that way, life will be, when we embrace it that way, life will be much easier for all humans.
I think so too. And I think that's the big turning point for me, especially even in the work that I did prior to meeting you in this beautiful healing space. I wouldn't have called myself a healer. I don't believe I do anything that heals somebody. I believe we let them come to their own sense of discovery in what needs to be let go of, like we're talking about in the patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there became a space where how much is enough?
Yeah.
When can we move past the healing and what's beyond that? So it's almost like we want to stop searching for the healing to happen, and we can move into the creation, because what I found was the healing was so beautiful and needed in the wounds that I had of the story and things that I didn't realize I was holding on to, an emotion that was stored. And it was such a beautiful convergence of letting that release and go, right? Letting it all go. And then, oh, so go ahead. Do you want to
I was just to say, there's so much power in the conversation of healing, though, because in order to really master that creation and that place you're talking about, we do want to have our healing tools so that as we move forward and build, we can just pull out a tool and go, okay, I'm going to feel this emotion. I'm going to move through it. I'm going to do, like all of that. I think healer really is just a label for, I have tools to emote. Right. I have tools to move my emotions.
Well, and the passion for sharing this is I was here and I got here and I had no idea that was even possible. And I feel fantastic. That's the freedom you're talking about. And the desire to share that became more than the desire of my fear not to. And so my whole journey this last 3 or 4 years has been really being able to show up in a new way and help somebody through with that certainty. But beyond that, like, really does come down to, what do you want more of? And that decision piece. Yeah. There was something that, I don't know who said it, where said it, how it's been said, but it's been shared in our group about, like, indecision is still a decision. And there are certain words people say, certain words people hear, different people talking at different times, and you just feel that in the cells of your body. Yeah. And I went, right? Because we pretend sometimes that I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what to do next. And we actually can hear, I don't know, as our response, or the language that we're using, which always fascinates me as well. But in those words are the answer, because it's still indecision. And that may not sit always the greatest in that moment, but when you decide to not be indecisive and just make a decision into that next step, then the next step gets revealed and gets revealed. It's like the old adage, if you needed to learn anything, make a phone call, and you're only 2 phone calls away from the answer that you need, because the next person will direct you where you need to go. It's the same kind of concept.
Right. I find that indecision really is linked to the decision to trust you or the outside world. And the outside world only has so many things that can help influence your decision. And we run out of influence from the outside world. At some point, we stop getting information. And so we don't get the feedback from someone or something or some experience. And so we land in this place of, oh my gosh, nobody's telling me what to do. So I don't know what to do. And it's in that moment where yourself is saying, hey, do this. And you're like, well, I don't know if I can do that. That's not the voice I'm used to listening to. And so indecision goes away when trust in self evolves.
And that is a really beautiful leadway to the next.
Well, good.
Good. The trust and the belief, like, it feels weird, not shameful anymore. There was shame attached to that too. And like, oh, I can be so accomplished and achieve so much and have the grades and the certifications and the knowledge and all the things. And I'm still sitting here in this lack of trust and belief in myself. And I can even say that now, like, it's a vulnerable conversation, but I want to tell you that it doesn't matter how much money you have, how much this, how much that, you're going to fall into these places where it comes down to, do I trust and believe in myself? Do I trust believe in myself to do the things that I want to do that feel good to me to lose the weight? Do I believe in myself to keep my focus, to keep moving forward, to make the money? Do I believe in myself to look at myself and my relationship to be the key figure in what I want most, so I'm not depending on someone else filling that cup for me? And
Mhm.
that has become powerful in that there was a moment where I realized I was there, that I trust, that I believe. And I have done the programs and did the things and was waiting for someone to tell me, just, I'm sure you're going to tell me how to do it now. You're going to get me there. This is the strategy. This is the plan, and we're going to go.
Yeah.
And when I began working with you, you're like, great, now we're going to feel this. And I'm like, what? Right? Because it required of me to slow down. But in that feeling and in that being in that state and really trusting in something that was me and not everything else around me, I began to see through a different lens. I began to see
Yeah.
myself differently. I began to experience myself differently. And I began to believe
Yeah.
in a new aspect. And it doesn't mean that that's gone and doesn't come back. Patterns.
Right.
But it means I know how to trust me, that I've got me. And it's
Right.
now in this place of creating this life that I want. And so the next piece, we've covered the expanding consciousness. We've covered the beyond limitation. We're talking about creation. What happens when we've healed what we can heal, but we're ready to move anyway? And whether healing comes up or not, we know we can still move forward. And I like to talk about it as I was in a very high state of stress, always. I don't know that I've ever not known life in not survival mode. I had a mom who was sick. We had all the things, all the stuff, like everyone has their story, but you learn to stay in fight or flight because you're almost addicted to the fight or flight. And so my nervous system didn't know how it was to feel calm. And
Mhm.
so a lot of the work has led me to some of the simplest things in breathing and meditation and staying still and learning how that feels in my body while everything else is still at play, while the responsibilities are out, and making it a priority as a biggest form of self-care.
Mhm.
And then that moment in allowing that space for myself, I learned what it felt to be in rest and repose. I learned to feel the difference between this and the mind chatter and all the stuff constantly
Mhm.
perpetuating everything. And then the ease and like, you can calm. You don't have to be running.
Right.
You just come back here. And then beyond that, working with you and mind shift into the creation point. So I want to kind of talk about that shift because we teach in Brain Game how to come out of that fight or flight and to understand the 2 points of that and how to be in that choice point. But then there's that moment of, great, now where do I take this next?
Right.
But I
Yeah.
found so much more room when the cobwebs and the stress weren't the thing in the forefront. I actually had more space for creating life. And so it leads us into the extraordinary life of our cap phrase sentence. And I want to talk about that because people go, oh, yeah, well, that's easy for you because, I mean, that's the initial answer. I've had that answer myself before. And that's the resistance that comes up in the belief pattern that we're talking about.
Mhm. Yeah, well, there's a leap off of that hamster wheel, right? Like we're in that space of, you were talking about someone, always wanting more information or not feeling good enough and all of those pieces. There's always going to be someone who knows more, and there's always going to be someone who knows less, which is always going to keep you uncertain about your place in the world when you are looking to the outside world. So coming into rest repose from Brain Game allows us to interrupt that cycle. But
Right.
then comes the invitation for the leap into fully owning who you are.
Yep.
So Brain Game is the awareness. It's the deep, rich journey of, oh my gosh, I matter. What I'm thinking, what I'm feeling matters.
Yes.
Right. And who I am and interjecting into this matters. But then comes the leap. Do I get to matter as a priority? And do I get to choose me and trust me and move forward in life from that place? Will it cause me to be selfish or egoic or whatever the thoughts are? There's this idea of, well, if I totally put myself first, then what? Well, then what? Then you're a creator. Then you're creating with people. You're co-creating, not from a place of someone's more important than me or less important than me, but from we're all connected. We are all the same. And a true knowing of that in the cells of your body, not a knowing of that intellectually, not a knowing of that because the law made you say that, because the politically correct thing to say is we're all equal. It's because you know it. You know that source runs through your body, and you know that source runs through your body and your body and your body, and everybody is moving this energy. And that leap of understanding is what mind shift is imagine immersing yourself in that depth of knowing yourself so that you can trust you. You can also trust everybody else.
I love
Right?
this. I love this so much. I want to talk more about the energetics of it too. And I want to share an
Mhm.
example. It was just coming to mind as you were talking. We had a family gathering, a small family gathering over the weekend. But I remember in these, when it's not my family, like it's my married family. And I used to feel so small
Mm.
walking in and pretending to hold the strong face and be like, I'm confident. And we'd always be meeting more people and talking to people. They're very social. It's very wonderful. And that's just not how I grew up. And I didn't realize till you were just talking how these shifts we're talking about, these embodied shifts where I didn't even think about that. This
Mhm.
whole in the last even year of just whether being online or being with them or being in a small space, like I stood tall in because I was comfortable with me.
Mhm.
I wasn't apologizing for me or being different or not knowing or not living here or not doing this or not knowing that. Like I just am me. And yeah, sometimes when we go to LA, I worry about the clothes and the things because the same and we just wear flip-flops everywhere, like, but that's the fun for me. And I get to choose and I get to stand in who I am and I get to be proud in that and I get to teach my girls that it doesn't matter, it matters that we feel good here, right?
Mhm.
And it just, I don't know, it flooded in when you were talking, like, oh my gosh, like that's gone.
Right.
I can sit at a table and I can sit at a dinner and I can sit at all the things and I can talk about what I want to talk about and I can interject and I don't have to like shrink and
Ah, do you know what else you don't have to do? You don't have to search for the next big piece of information for you.
like,
You don't have to search for the next big, who's going
yes.
to have the rescue cure for you for the next thing. You don't, there's nothing to get anymore.
And it just hit me on that level, but there's been so many more, and we just graduated Mind Shift, and there's just been this 2 weeks of unfolding of all this change where you really know, like,
Mhm.
you're not waiting for it, like,
Mhm.
transmutation keeps happening, but you're, like, knowing that even though some things may rise, these shadow sides may still come in, you can be with them.
Right.
You're gonna be okay.
So you're
It's
just free to go express your purpose.
yeah, it's
You're not caught, you're not trapped anymore by the stuff you need to get or the growth you need to have, and expansion takes on new meaning. That's I'm really passionate about that aspect of it, is the expansion that everybody's craving by getting the next piece of information that's going to up level them.
it doesn't.
And no, you're the up level. And so then you get to watch your own cycle of expansion happening over and over again and know that you're creating it. And then if you want to expand, you simply decide to expand and it occurs. And so you are in a constant acceleration at the pace you want,
We were
right?
talking before we got on here a little bit and like how much harmony there was in places where there might have been a little tension before in conversations with different happenings in life. And I realized it's the energy. It's the energy
Mhm.
of that beingness and how that ripples out. We can talk a little science about how it ripples out a little bit into your field, right? And people feel it.
Yeah.
They know it or not. Energy's real.
Yeah. So, well, this kind of brings us full circle to awareness. So, in the body, when we're thinking about being aware of who we are, right? We start to activate an awareness of parts of our body. And so we become, and as we, when I was inviting you to feel early on in our conversations, it was because the more aware you are that you are in your body, the more you're engaged with the body, and you begin to fully fill the body with more of that awareness.
Yes.
So that awareness, well, let's talk about the source of that. The source of that is consciousness.
Mhm.
So consciousness is flowing through the body all the time, but when you're not aware of it, it's flowing through a steady but low energy stream of it. You're only allowing awareness of maybe consciousness here or consciousness here sometimes, or maybe only consciousness when you're running, right? Like, or you're jogging, all of a sudden you get to the zone. Oh my gosh, I was so in the zone. I was so conscious in that moment, right? It's one moment. You are actually able to be in the zone all the time without having to get there. There's nowhere to get.
Right.
The getting there is being there, allowing source to flow through. So this is measurable. Your awareness moves through the body, and it amplifies, it activates the circuitry to amplify. So you have electromagnetic fields moving around your heart, moving around your mind, and moving around the whole body. And they're moving in this torus field of energy that, when you're aware, amplifies, and it generates based on, it creates this power center, right? Like a power plant inside of your body. And then you can actually direct it with your awareness to go and do and be anything that you want. You are actually the creator. It is a very physical, strong force energy that's moving out. It's a strong force energy that the planet works with to continue to expand and to grow and to create. It's the force that moves mountains to evolve, for volcanoes to erupt, for earthquakes to occur, for lightning to strike, for the rain to fall. Everything is moved by this source, including humanity, but humanity can do it intentionally. And this is the thing that, if you just get that, everything else is doing it by pure unconscious co-creation. Right. We can do it consciously. We can direct a thought into the heart, and that electromagnetic field bursts open. I'm only a little bit passionate about this. Bursts open. And then you can direct it to the experience you want, and it moves out into the world, and all of the people and all of the players and all the environment show up to play with you there. And it is measurable. It is real. It's the realest thing we have access to is this, not the physical world.
Yes. And I can tell you from my experience that right there has been the thing that I had to believe and trust in the most.
Yeah.
Right? Because of whatever reason, if I allowed myself that, things might actually work.
Yeah.
And so shifting into that beautiful knowing experience of it, that's what Mind Shift was so beautiful for that. And just spending 6 months understanding and feeling and witnessing and knowing the synchronicities and seeing the feedback, whichever stream of energy we're sending out, right? Like, it was so powerful that it became not just believable, but it became the truth. It is the truth. It's universal law. It's just how everything works on the planet, and including us, and that we're beings who are able to decide to do this at any moment, every moment.
So you know what else leaves in this? We were talking about this earlier, but what else leaves in all of that is the how and the why and the when.
Doesn't matter.
All the things that you're seeking outside, like, well, when will it happen? And how will it happen? And what's my plan? And all that stuff, it just drops away. You just know what that is.
It just felt like that. I felt like that was me, like our first year coaching. But no, really, what's the how? Like, what do I need to do?
Right. So when will that happen?
Yeah. And exactly, how does that work? Can you just give that guarantee?
What are the 3 steps?
Just give me the.
And what do you see? What do you see for me? That was my favorite one. And everybody always asks me, what do you see in 6 months? Like, am I going to do this? I don't know. It looks like you could. Do you want to do it? And so then like all that goes away.
And I don't mean to be making fun. I'm making fun of myself in this moment.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yes.
It was so real. And all of a sudden, it's just not there anymore. It's like, oh, well, I'll find myself. Oh, but I just need to do the thing. No, that's the pattern. Come back.
But that's the beauty, is we can look back, and I love it every time. Every time somebody says how, when, why, I'm like, oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to mind shift with you, because those can be answered.
Yes.
We don't have to wonder.
Understanding of all the other things just fall into place. I'm going to look at comments. I can see the comment stream kind of going.
I'm reading some of them. I'm reading some of them through. It's fun.
Okay, so Helen, Monica. Hello, Monica. Hi, Gentry. Thanks for being here.
Ifa really wants to do some spiritual readings. We can see that. We love your pull and your call to do that.
wonderful. I love that you guys are like, yes, I'm understanding what you're talking about. Helen loves opening
Yes.
her package with anticipation. Sometimes she
Yeah.
realizes it has layers, like numerous wrappings around it. I love like wrapping paper that doesn't end. I love it. And it just
Gotta be in here somewhere. Yeah.
I acknowledge my pattern. And I love that, Helen, because you're in the brain game. So you're learning how to perceive those layers and understand that it's all for you. And I think that's the thing too, that I mean, there's so many things we can talk about, Joy. I want to be succinct in our conversation today because we'll just keep going, I know us. But that understanding that everything is for us.
Yeah.
You know, it's not happening to us. It feels like it. It can, and we can get lost and we can forget and we can be human in this cycle.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about consciousness is it is happening to you if that's what you decide. And so it's true. Life can be happening to you. And it's hard when life is happening to you. It was so hard for me. And it can be even hard when life is happening for you sometimes. You know, mind shift like is bringing you to life is happening through you.
Yes.
Right? Which is really it's that's what we're talking about. Really, we're talking about unity consciousness. It unifies so that you are a part of this world, not just in it.
And it doesn't keep us separate. We're not separate.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that's one of the things that oftentimes in our spiritual growth, personal growth, there's this sensation that we're spirits in a body, right? And we're having this human experience. And so there's a disregard for the unity of that. Right. Oftentimes it's like, well, it's just a body, or we're either so caught up in the body that we don't understand that there's the spirit, or we're so caught up in spirit that we don't value the body and the unity isn't there.
Right.
And so
I see that so much too with even
yeah,
clients and just people I've talked to. Like I was the person who was so in the body that I didn't make room for spirit. And so now opening that up, it changes everything. And I
right.
think people who are so into spirit, they have to bring themselves back into their body.
Yeah.
It's for everybody. And so I
Yeah.
just love this conversation so much because someone listening is going to be somewhere in between or at the
Right.
beginning we were, or, you know, somewhere in the middle or just ready for something different.
Yeah.
And I mean, the partnership, the work that I've done with you, not only as your client, but as a partner and just moving forward and moving this work out in the world, like, I don't know how to say it except for saying, like, I want to scream from the mountaintop and say everybody would benefit from this. And those who are ready will know.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like I knew. I didn't know what and where and why. I just knew I had to be there.
Yeah. Because everybody reaches that moment because it's a pattern. Right. So mind shift is at that point in the pattern when you're ready to let go of having the pattern create you and create your life, and you're sick of responding to the pattern, and you're ready to be the creator of it, not just by happenstance or by chance or by wishing it enough or manifesting it enough, or sometimes the pattern works in your favor if you're lucky and the universe loves you enough. It's you get to a place where you're ready just to make the leap of, I want it to work all the time because I am it. I am connected with it. And you know when you're ready for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you're ready, it's like, oh, for me, it's the juiciest journey. That 6 months of, well, let's do it. Let's leap. Let's play in this space until you do it. And it happens. It happens for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. And then you have this community of people who understand and
Right.
people who are putting work into the world and people who want to continue to be this and share
Right.
this. And the invitation is there. And that's what's so simple. It's an invitation.
It's like a high caliber collaboration to be able to be with people who know they're the universe, who want to create from that place if they don't want anything from you. Like, if you ever I know this is probably not on topic, but when you've wanted to collaborate with people and you want something from them or they want something from you, to collaborate with a group of people who want something from life with you.
Yeah,
it's a totally different story. Yeah.
It is. There's so much more ease. There's so much more flow. There's so much less. Well, there is no competition and there's no conflict. It's just easy to work through. It's so amazing. I was like feeling called to end with a conversation about investing in self, just briefly.
Yeah.
Not from a place of have to, but a place from experience. And I had a lot of reservation in the beginning diving into programs, diving into coaching one-on-one, and I experienced something beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And then it became the search for what other experiences can I experience? And so I want to talk about the extraordinary life portion of our caption, because in that deciding, we get to decide what extraordinary looks like for us. And we get to decide how we want to live. And we get to decide our definition of wealth and our definition of health and how we look and what we do. And the world wants to decide for us. It's like we've been conditioned to be this. And if you're not this, you're not enough. And if you don't have these shoes, and if you don't have this makeup, and if you don't have this perfect body, you're not enough. And you are enough. And if you want those things, you can still have them. It's not about denying yourself what's available to you. It's about owning that when you want it and deciding that you're going to create that in your life. And so I know I've had conversations with people, even online, just talking about wealth. Like, there are trigger words for us, and trigger is something that activates in the body, sometimes for the better, sometimes not for the great, right? Like, it's like, we didn't have a good experience with that, or that's not, I'm not included in that. And we are all included. Again, we're back to the you matter conversation. You have wealth that you desire. You get to have health you desire. You get to have relationships you desire when you decide what it is that you desire.
Well, and I think that's tricky for some people, for all of us. And it's not even some people. It really is for all of us when we're coming from the perspective that there are limits. We are programmed to believe in economy. We're programmed to believe in concepts that by their very nature are based on limitation and lack. So it's so ingrained in our experience, our everyday actions. Every single thing around us is based on lack. You get better insurance rates or lesser insurance rates based on how you perform. And it's like there's just one small pot for everything to belong in. Somebody has more money than another person. There's this idea that there's more and less. But the truth of it is, it's all limitless, right? And there's limitless expansion, but coming into an understanding of that is so important, because then it makes it easier to understand that as a limitless being, everyone can experience limitlessness. You're not the only one, right? Everyone can experience it. It doesn't matter how many dollars are flowing through the currency of a nation or a world. There are lots of ways to experience abundance, and it just keeps manufacturing itself. It keeps finding a way. It is limitless, and our perception of it either is or isn't. But investment comes in if I want to have an extraordinary life, then what's included in that? Would I limit myself from something in the extraordinary? If I really can live extraordinary, and I understand that when I live an extraordinary life, it allows other people to witness that and then live it too, not take away from it, then I can invest in that, and I can decide, well, what do I want to invest in for me? And if you understand that energy is flowing through you as source and you're creating it, then everything you invest in is you. Yeah. You can't invest in another person because they don't have the answers for you. You invest in an experience with other people who also want to show up and be a part of that experience, which then amplifies your investment. Yeah. So if you want to invest, you are looking for people and partners and players who want to amplify with you, not detract. And when you find that investment is either in, like, if you invest in somebody who detracts from your experience of amplification, it's like, oh, I invested in that and I hated every minute of that. It was the worst program ever. Well, that's a recognition of, oh, I'd rather be somewhere where I could amplify. But what did I just invest in? I invest in my awareness that I want extraordinary and I'm willing to go get it. And so that investment will continue to come back to you in growth, and the wealth will continue to come back to you. And then if you invest in those who amplify, then the wealth comes back even greater. But becoming comfortable with wealth doesn't mean better than or less than. Yeah. And I think that's the number one shift in our definitions. I think some of these words we need to come back to and redefine what it means to us.
Yeah. I was going to share, I think one of the most powerful things that we took time to do was you asked of me to define success for myself.
Yeah.
And in that definition, no money was to be mentioned.
Right.
And it was really eye-opening, and something I've shared with other people as well, because we get caught up in someone else's definition for
Right.
us. And
Yeah.
so back to that decision place in deciding what it means for us for that to feel good.
Yeah.
Right? And then how do we define that for ourselves? So wealth and success, to me, I don't feel that they're different,
Right.
right? Except that we can open the conversation around finances with wealth a little bit more, but it's not all it's not all finances.
Right.
And in that understanding and in that embodiment, it just opens up again the possibility and potential to that limitless space. And then it just becomes excitement. And what do I want to create today?
Right.
What is the next thing? What's the next best step? Where can I go next? What if I don't have the finances right now, what can I do to create it? Because the world isn't like an open oyster. What is that? I don't know
Yeah.
what it is,
Well,
but
it's the same cycle, right? We were we talk about healing before, and that when we're in a cycle of healing, it's the same thing as being in a cycle of success. So oftentimes we get in a loop of, well, I want success, but I don't need wealth,
Mhm.
right? I want to heal, I want to heal, I want to heal. I don't want to be well.
Right. What
And
happens
so,
and you're
right,
just healthy and you're just full of extraordinary because you are.
right. So wealth is that. Wealth is I'm well in all energetic transmissions of my life. I am well. I do not limit the flow anywhere. I don't limit the flow of money that wants to come in. I don't limit the flow of well-being. I don't limit the flow of connection and collaboration and love and play. I don't limit any of that. And therefore, I experience wealth, which is the well flowing out beyond me, the expression of me. The well of me moves out into the world, and I am replenished with everything I need to keep my well full. And when your well is full, you understand all I need to do is continue to keep my well full, and it can flow back out into the world. And that's what wealth is, because then wealth allows us to be who we are, do what we want, experience what we want in the world, and thrive like a mofo.
Right?
Thrive. Yeah.
Yes. What are we here for if it's not to thrive? It is
Yeah.
not to survive and suffer. It is not.
All of us. All of us. Yes.
So good. I feel like we're complete.
Yeah. Like, what else do we want? I'm like, thrive.
Thrive. I don't know how to spell that.
Yes, I love that. Yes, Gentry. What feeling states do we want to experience? What is wealth for you? What do you want to feel? What do you want to what do you want to experience? It's yours. It is yours.
I love it so much.
Yeah. Oh, such a fun conversation. I'm like, oh, fired up.
Send that out. Take some of those.
Feel that fun vibe. We're feeling it. Clearly, people who are listening are feeling it too, because it's being amplified. Like, I can feel the amplification of the room. It's really cool.
I love it so much. Do you have any final words? I know let's talk about Mind Shift. Mind Shift's coming up on March 29th, and you have some wonderful gifts still flowing. We have so many opportunities to tune in to feelings and experiences of this.
Yeah. Well, if you weren't part of the Q experience, you can still register for that, and you can watch the replays. So we are in that I'm demonstrating the quantum expansion technique, which allows you to move energy out. This is something that we go to in detail. We certify practitioners in that, should you choose. You either learn to do it for yourself, or you can use this in the world in your work. But one of the most important things about Mind Shift is it's not for any one person. You don't need to be a healer or an entrepreneur to be a part of that journey. You need only be a person at the edge of that leap, right? That's the most important piece. And so any of the things that we're teaching are for you to live a better version of you. That's it, is to become in sync with the universe. So we teach the universal laws. We teach it for you personally, but if you want to take it out into the world and teach it, fantastic too. So you're certified in it, but you don't need to do anything with it. You can, or you don't have to. It will become your life. Same thing with the quantum expansion. And then we have beautiful, rich conversations where we get to sit together in a small group and talk about what's happening for you and integrate all of this. And so it really is an incubator for your leap into extraordinary. That really is the simplest way to put it.
I love that so much. And what is your extraordinary? Is that with your kids and your
Right.
family? Is that in your business? Is that in a new venture? Is that in a passion project? Is that just in being the best person you could possibly be? Because
Yeah.
you're growing, right? Like,
And
so
and the
good.
last piece I would add to that is because people always ask, oh my gosh, the time. Because what happens when you're about ready to leap is the first thing, the money and the time. I don't have time for that. I don't have the money for that. That's your mind going, I don't know what happens to me when you leap. Your mind is like, what? I can't worry for you. I can't hold you back. Like we would leap. What does that mean? So there's that fear that shows up, just like it does. I usually talk about it from like if you're standing at the edge of an airplane and you're getting ready to skydive, there's a feeling of what happens to me when I do that. And even though people told you you're going to be fine, it takes this bravery to make that leap. And so as we're doing that, the thing that I really love is time-wise for Mindshift. Mindshift is designed very specifically to integrate into your life, not to take you away from it. So we meet regularly, but not in a way that takes over your experience in life. It flows with it. So we have weekly conversations. We have some places you can come in and out of if you choose, if you want it. But really the time commitment works really well for everyone that's ever gone through it. So anyway.
I couldn't wait. It was always like, oh, it's a Mindshift. So exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yes, and all the things. And I love that. Thank you for sharing all those pieces because they're important when we're talking about programs, when we're talking about coaches, when we're talking about investing in ourselves in any capacity. We always are investing in ourselves. It's just what are we choosing to invest in ourselves?
Yeah.
And where do you want to, what kind of experience do you want to have? That's why I love these conversations so much because there's the consciousness around that even.
Well, I can feel the celebration in it. Like I'm so grateful you leapt because that's what I invest in by teaching Mindshift is that I want other people in the world that I can play with at this level.
Absolutely. And all the components to everything that I'm teaching and the retreats that I do is to have people experience that there's another level. So it's such a beautiful synergy and just bringing the work together and allowing people to be ready when they're ready for the next thing. So
it's so good.
If you want it's so good. All right. Well, I think we'll leave this here. I see everybody's excited. They can feel the energy. They're having a great time in the conversation. Keep the comments rolling. If you're watching on the replay, we're happy to answer any questions that you have. And I'm going to be posting links for you to learn more, to join in for the Q experience, to ask any questions. And if you want to have any conversations specifically with Joy, that's available as well. So,
yeah. And we do have a call next week. I kind of got sidetracked in the energy, but we do have a call next week. If anybody wants to join in, I'm going to be just chatting about Mindshift and answering questions and doing a little channeling. We didn't even talk about that, but I'll do a little channeling and we're going to do some fun things. So we'll play with energy next week.
It's fun.
So Michelle can get you all those details.
I'll get you all the details. I love it so much. Thank you for your time today. Thanks for meeting with me. I love sharing you.
Thank you. Love you.
So good.
Hi, everyone.
Have a really great day, you guys. I'll talk to you soon.